The mayor of Tucson explains why he won't run for re-election.
You can never do everything, and there will always be challenges.
Priorities in the coming years for the Pima County Democrats and Republicans.
We have been neglecting giving people opportunity.
And Representative Ann Kirkpatrick on her return to Capitol Hill.
What I've been talking about is it's not easy to be in the majority.
Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you for joining us. It's the start of a new year with some familiar challenges, namely elections. This November, voters in Tucson will elect a new mayor. Democratic Mayor Jonathan Rothschild announced he will not seek a third term. His office, along with 3 city council seats, will appear on the ballot. We asked the mayor about his decision to step down after serving for 8 years.
Ultimately for me, when I came to City Hall, I had a couple of objectives in mind, and I think we've come a long way towards accomplishing them. I wanted to restore trust in city government. I think there was a feeling generally across the city that the city could have been doing better. I'm not sure that that was entirely true, but it was a perception, and I wanted to work on that perception. And I think we've done that. And one of the measures of doing that was the other thing that I wanted to do, which was to get some additional funds into the city that we couldn't get just through our normal sales tax or state shared revenue for our roads, for our police and fire department, and for our parks. In the last 6 years, we've passed 3 of those bond initiatives. So that was really what I wanted to accomplish. You know, you can never do everything, and there will always be challenges. But for me, I felt satisfied that the city's in a good place.
They often say you should leave things better than you found them. You'll be leaving the city and it's in a surplus. How is that possible given that Tucson has faced some economic challenges, and of course we have a recession that you were here for?
Oh yeah, so and when I did come into office, it was 2011. You know, the big recession had hit in late 2007, early 2008. And Tucson was slow coming out of the recession. So when I came to office, actually this past year is the first year in the time that I've been in office where we had a surplus. We had a $29 million surplus, and we put it seems like a lot of money, but we put it into reserves because we need more money for rainy day. We put it into potentially going to self-insurance, health self-insurance for our employees, which will help. We put it to technology, things that needed to be done internally to make things work faster in the city. And we put it to raises for our city employees who had gone 8-10 years without any kind of real substantial raise. How does that happen? Really 2 ways. One, you do have to put an emphasis on bringing businesses to the community, and we've done that over the last 8 years. Our office has done that, as has the council as a whole. So we've seen that that's necessary, and we've been very careful with our money. There hasn't been any excess spending, and believe me, every one of us has our projects that we would like to see and like to do, but we've had to really tighten our belt so that we could get those core services done.
Do you look back and think perhaps maybe too careful? I know there's always a debate over how much money to put toward public safety or perhaps improving areas outside of downtown Tucson?
Sure. I would like to say we've been too careful, but when you look at the budget, there just isn't discretionary money. And one of the things that people say, oh, you have money for this, you have money for that. We have so little in the way of discretionary money. Once we pay our police that we have and our firefighters that we have and our other workers, even without raises, because one of the things that all cities face, Tucson and cities across the country, are rising pension costs and rising health insurance costs. So if everything else stays the same, your economy has to pick up at that same pace before you see extra money. We saw that last year, and hopefully we can keep it going. It's going to be important that the new council keep that going.
There's been substantial growth outside of Tucson, Marana, Oro Valley, Vail area, especially with the education system. What do you suppose that says about where Tucson fits into growth and development?
Well, our growth is different, and the percentages are different. You know, so in a city of 580,000, if you add 5,800 people, it's a 1% growth. If you add 2,500 people in a city of 40,000, you can do the math, but they can say it's a 5% growth. Our growth has been good in the last few years. We've seen a real uptick, particularly on the east side of town, in large neighborhoods being platted out, being built, and that's really where the growth for the city of Tucson is going to be. The other issue with growth for Tucson is a lot of it's infill, and infill is a lot harder than just going out and putting in new neighborhoods. But infill now can be done right. We know a lot more than we knew a few years ago, and you're seeing across the country, and you're beginning to see in Tucson, particularly younger people and people getting closer to my age, wanting to live closer to services and not having to travel as far. So we're beginning to see a lot more of what I would call smart growth.
I know that you think that you've achieved all that you could achieve during your time as mayor, but let's say you could stick around for another term and maybe wave a magic wand. What's the one thing you would like to see happen in Tucson, especially given that you're a local? I mean, this is your home.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've achieved everything that I wanted to achieve, just some of those major goals. But if I could wave a magic wand, what I would like to see is a couple things. One, I would like to see our corridors, whether it be South 12th Avenue, Oracle Road, Grant Road, really built out for smart growth so that we can concentrate in a planned way our economic areas in particular places. And we can do that, and I think that's something that can happen in the future. The other thing, if I could wave a magic wand, what I'd love to see is for the state legislature to give cities a little more autonomy, a little more decision making, to experiment with local ordinances, and not to take the view that because a city's view on an issue is different than theirs, that they can't do it. And as part of that, work to expand the tax base. For instance, we've just had a recent ruling from the Supreme Court that has said that online businesses can be more easily taxed. We collect a lot of online taxes, but it's always been voluntary. The state legislature is in control of how that'll happen. Some of their leaders have said, oh, we'll take a look at that, but it has to be tax neutral. In other words, we're going to lower taxes somewhere else in order to collect taxes that should have already been being collected. And really, when you said wave the magic wand, I would love to be able to wave that magic wand. That's been a real frustration.
There are some people who think that being the mayor or being on the council is largely political. I know that in the past you've said you don't quite see red or blue when you're actually governing a city.
Yeah.
The next mayor, what will he or she have to know going into this job?
I think what's important for the next mayor is that they come to the office for the right reasons. And the right reasons aren't to advance a political career, not in the mayor's office. It really is to want to help the people of Tucson. That's a big, broad, squishy phrase, but what it means is that when a person has a problem in the city and the city is the place where they come for help, that you respond and have the city respond as quickly as possible. And if we can help, we do. And if we can't help, we give an explanation of why we can't help and try to get somebody to the next place. It really is a constituent service job. And that's true for all the council offices as well.
All right, Mayor, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Lorraine. Thanks for having me.
The Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce doesn't endorse political candidates, but as it continues to advocate for businesses and economic growth, the group will pay close attention as the election takes shape. We asked the new chamber president, Lydia Aranda, what type of leadership the chamber wants to see take hold. Does the chamber directly have contacts associated with government relations that really monitors the activity happening at the state level and then the local level?
Our Chamber of Commerce, along with other chambers of commerce, we keep very strong relationships with all kinds of activities. Certainly our elected officials locally, regionally, and nationally, and paying attention to what kind of impact of issues or policy might be going on. But one of the things I'm really excited about in this new year and taking on this new role is to take a little bit deeper dive of how we are communicating not only what's coming up from our members and community to be able to share that and be a voice, but also paying attention to what decisions are being made and helping to educate our membership on what that means for them.
How closely do you work with other chambers, and then the expansion of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce? What are you hearing from other regions when they talk about what they would like to see in the city of Tucson?
You know, that's a really good question. The first part of it, we work very closely with all surrounding chambers, both municipal chambers and other diverse chambers. And to your point, we very much, several years ago, have expanded out to be a tri-county organization. We're working very closely with our affiliate Hispanic chambers in Douglas, in Sierra Vista, and in Ambos Nogales, where people are asking about how can they get more involved? How can they communicate with each other to be able to tap into the best resources? I think there's a lot of opportunity on what that means in the sense of resources can be human, they can be financial, they can be informative or industry trends. And so it's nice to have the Tucson Hispanic Chamber be, again, a hub of providing that information to and from.
So it's fair to say that in 2019, you're still having people ask you, why do you have a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
That is a question that does come up, and what I find when I receive that question, I like to listen to people as to really what is causing the question, and what I find more often than not is that question is about them finding out how can they get more involved. So they want to understand the mission, they love to understand the history, and when they really see how very many ways that we are working to collaborate with other business owners, with other industry leaders, and with existing organizations, institutions like the U of A and others, then they find out that there is actually a place for everybody within the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, and that's something that I hope to perpetuate.
What do you anticipate will be one of the bigger challenges for you as the new leader of the Chamber, and then also for the new leadership here in Tucson?
I think communication continues to be a very big need and something that we have succeeded at thus far, but I see moving ahead in the dynamic years to come, that will be something we will all be wanting to work together and communicating with each other rather than having it be anything that competes. We want to find better ways to collaborate with each other. Certainly, the Tucson Hispanic Chamber, as I mentioned before, we work very closely with a lot of our other chamber leaders and organizations. Many of our members we share with other organizations, and I see that as a very positive thing because we can actually be tackling some common issues together, and in that find more strength in being able to push some solutions together.
Okay, Lydia from the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
With back-to-back election years, leaders of the Democratic and Republican parties in Pima County are staying busy. We checked in with party chairs Allison Jones and David Eppeheimer about lessons learned from the 2018 midterm and their priorities in the coming year.
My focus as chair of the Pima County Republican Party is always Pima County. I'm working on our Board of Supervisors, the City Council and the Mayor. These are Democrat-run operations, and they're failing operations. And we need to really keep up the loyal opposition on the leadership of Pima County and Tucson, and their failure to bring this community up into an economic position such as the leadership in Maricopa County has.
Allison, you're new to your role in the Pima County Democratic Party. Some of what David said, is that why you took on your position, to help lead some new change?
I took on the role in the Pima County Democratic Party because I saw some new energy out there in the grassroots that I thought we needed to bring in to make change. And the grassroots has been successful in doing that in many ways. Although Tucson is not as affluent as Maricopa, I believe that the things we stand for, like appropriately funding education, will lift us up compared to other places, because we have been neglecting giving people opportunity to better their lives through education in many ways.
What did your party learn, Allison? We'll start with you from the midterm.
We learned that the ground game really matters. We had scores, hundreds, thousands of people knocking on doors, and ultimately, I believe knocking on doors is the gold standard for voter outreach. We could do it better, and we're going to improve on it next time around, but there were lessons learned, and we're going to take it from here.
I would ditto what Allison said about ground game and about knocking on doors. We knocked on our RNC funded effort in Pima County knocked on tens of thousands of doors. But the one thing that I think gets lost in the results and looking at the results as on the surface is this was President Trump's first term midterm. And in a president's first term midterm, everything flips. And it goes all the way down. Obama lost his first term midterm, lost the Senate, lost the House, never regained them. And President Trump increased Republican senatorial count. In the Senate, we lost the House. That was very predictable.
What's
So-
different about this midterm was, though, the turnout.
Mhm.
It was Democrats won with a much greater turnout than is usually seen in midterms, which I believe is significant.
Does
Yeah,
that make you apprehensive about 2020?
not at all. I think that it's going to be very hard fought. The forces are lining up now and have been for the first 2 years of his term, lining up against President Trump. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. The presidential election will be.
There are some people who don't watch these races as closely as the two of you. Bloodbath. Is that likely to happen, Allison?
Well, I haven't used that term before, but I have said it's going to be on a scale that we've never seen before. More money, more advertising, more door knocking, more volunteers, more of everything. Bloodbath, maybe, but the scale is going to be tremendous.
Well, I think the hatred of President Trump by the left and the word progressive is being used to describe the left. I mean, Allison, you were elected on a progressive platform using that word. Progressive is a code word for socialist. I think so.
Disagree? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't run away from that one. The socialists hate President Trump with a passion. And they hate him with a passion because of the successes he's had in policy. Forget personality. Policy.
Would you describe it that way?
Hatred, no, but definitely discontent. And instead of calling people like me progressives, I would call Trump supporters regressives. I mean, they are really pulling away from the middle class, weakening the middle class. Wealth is being increasingly concentrated into fewer and fewer hands. And when you have no healthy middle class, there's eventually no one to buy the stuff that the very wealthy are selling. Trickle-down economics or supply side has never worked. Demand side has always been the answer. And regressive politics go completely against that and weaken the whole economy and the middle class.
Taking the names out of it, regardless of what you call your party or how you feel you're represented, at the local level in Pima County, how can the two of you go about leaving those words out of the conversation and just having a discussion about policy and the economy, as you've said?
Republicans are very, very passionate about personal responsibility, the value of the individual over the group, the ability of a person to make him or herself as good and as successful as their own merits will take them. And that's what we're always going to be about. That's what we're always, it's about the availability, the opportunity to do the best you can and be rewarded for that, and not be held back by the lowest common denominator.
Democrats do believe in personal responsibility, but from the beginning of time, there have always been people who are higher achievers and lower achievers, and we also believe in an element of fairness. And we see where we do institute fairness. For example, I'll come back to the education example, giving children all the equal access to a quality education is what lifts people up. If institute this element of fairness in our society, then people are stuck in poverty, and the rich are the only people who will ever be rich. And so that is what we stand for. We are the party of the middle class. We believe in unions and collective bargaining because we've seen the way they lift up an entire population, not just the members of the unions. And so that is where we stand.
Okay, we'll leave it there this time, and maybe next time we'll pick up the conversation. My thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm honored and
As Congress returned to work, Democrats took control of the House this week. The new majority includes Ann Kirkpatrick, representative of Arizona's 2nd Congressional District. Last month, she joined Christopher Conover in Arizona Public Media's radio studio to talk about her return to Congress.
You've been in Congress before, both as a member of the majority when you were first elected and the minority. Based on that experience, what do you expect come January?
Well, you know, I'm the only one of the incoming class who's actually been in the majority. And so what I've been talking about is it's not easy to be in the majority. When we were in the majority before, we took on hefty issues, legislation, debated it vigorously in caucus, and then came to a consensus. And this is why I support Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, because she was able to lead us through that effort and get us together and bring legislation that we could pass. So we never took a bill to the floor of the House that we couldn't pass. But it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy.
You mentioned you support Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. You were there last time she was Speaker. Does she need to do things differently this time around?
Well, let me first say, no other speaker before her or since her has been able to have the accomplishments, legislative accomplishments, that she has had. But yes, it's time to start empowering a new generation of leadership in the Democratic caucus.
What has changed in D.C.? You've been up there for a couple of weeks now. You were out of D.C. for a couple of years. What's changed?
You know, I see more bipartisanship. So it's really interesting to me. And I'll just give you an example. When I first was elected in 2008 and sworn in 2009, I would make the effort to go over to the Republican side. There really aren't sides in the House. We don't have assigned seating, but people kind of gravitate to one side or the other and sit by my colleagues and get to know them. What I noticed recently is Republicans coming to the Democratic side and getting to know us. And so I really see an effort to unite our country, unite Congress, get rid of the division that we've been under for a couple of years, and really work together for the betterment of our country.
What's the first bill you're hoping to file?
So the first bill I'm going to file is my bill to allow Dreamers to work on Capitol Hill. So I introduced this bill before, and it came out of my immigration working group. So I'm setting up working groups on specific issues. My immigration working group last time said if people could hear the stories of these Dreamers in Washington, D.C., we would do the Dreamers Act and we would pass comprehensive immigration reform. So that's my first bill. It would allow Dreamers to work on Capitol Hill. I plan to be one of the first employers of a Dreamer. Already have somebody in mind.
If comprehensive immigration reform comes up and your Dreamer bill is in there, including the bill you want to file to have Dreamers hired by other members of Congress, but there's also a wall in there. Is that something you can vote for?
No, absolutely not. And we don't want a wall in southern Arizona. A third of our economy comes from Mexico. We want to build bridges, not walls.
One of the things during the campaign we heard a lot of Democrats talk about was impeachment of the president. Is that something that we need to do right now?
You know, I'm a former deputy Pima County attorney, and I never interfered with law enforcement's investigations. They did their investigation, then they wrote up on a report, brought it to me, and I would decide whether or not there was a crime to be charged. And that's the same process we should use with impeachment. Let the investigators do their investigation, write up a report, which I really believe should be made public to the American people, and then we'll decide from there.
During the campaign, in both positive and negative ways, you were quoted as saying the vote for the Affordable Care Act was one of the proudest votes you had when you were in Congress. President Obama has even admitted that it has its problems. Are there changes that need to be made?
Well, and let me just say, I did vote for the Affordable Care Act. I was told that if I did, I would lose my next election, which I did, but I made a comeback. And yes, it does need to be changed. One of the problems we've had in Arizona is the lack of insurance companies in the healthcare market. So the bill that I want to introduce would allow people to buy into Medicare at any age. So it's paid for because they're buying in, paying an insurance premium, but Medicare is a good system. I've never met anyone who didn't like their Medicare.
Have you had a moment yet, maybe when you went back to D.C. and saw the craziness and said, oh gosh, what did I do? I have 3 grandkids. I could have just stayed with their craziness in southern Arizona.
I've had those moments. I think I had one of those moments today on my drive here. But, you know, I have an opportunity, and my favorite quote is Thomas Edison, who said, opportunity is missed by most people because it comes dressed in overalls and it looks like work. So I've got my jean jacket on today. I'm ready to get to work, and I hope to create a better life for my grandchildren.
All right, well, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Before we go, a look ahead to next week's program.
They're in between the 198 and
Arizona 360 traveled to Yuma for a rare look at how the U.S. Border Patrol is responding to the influx of immigrants from Central America seeking asylum. Our crew saw firsthand how dozens of men, women, and children are crossing the border in large groups. Customs and Border Protection says this is the new normal, with hundreds crossing daily and surrendering to agents.
So when we say giving up, it's an individual that crosses illegally into the United States, actively seeks out a Border Patrol agent, and gives themselves up or surrenders. They make no attempt to evade apprehension because that's not their goal.
Our team also crossed the border into Mexico and spoke with the dozens of families waiting to request asylum at the San Luis port of entry.
Aside from food and water, there are
We'll also look at how one San Luis church manages to collect tons of food and clothing for the surge of migrants.
They are in a very, very critical situation. Broke the heart when you cross in front of them, and the situation is very, very worse, you know. Children's and very, very poverty and very big need they have.
And that's all for now. Thanks for joining us. Visit us on social media and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.